This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, so good stuff there. We got Bitcoin pumping to 94 figures. Of course, we got Manny going on here. Manny, talk to us. Changes, new defensive coordinator. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see Mario got the hire done without taking forever this time. He was obviously working on it in season, right, as he was making that decision to get rid of Lance Guidry, studying guys, and obviously it's why he interviews a lot of guys through the process, the previous process, because he always wants to have people that he has in mind. I think Greg Schiano played a huge role in Corey Heatherman becoming the new defensive coordinator here. Heatherman coached for him for 2 years. Or 3 years, I think, up at Rutgers, and was kind of an up-and-coming ex-Division III quarterback, a guy who knows the offensive side of the game really well, an up-and-coming coach who in his one season as defensive coordinator in Minnesota completely turned that defense around statistically, and they had top 15 marks in a lot of areas. And so I think Mario just wants to, solidify two things. One, he's a linebackers coach. So Derek Nicholson's on his way to Missouri, and I think ultimately Mario wanted to make a change and bring in a guy who would be in charge of linebackers and have the Greg Schiano blessing. As you know, or if people don't know, Mario cut his teeth really in coaching early in his career with Greg Schiano, and that's a guy he will always listen to when it comes to recommendations.
Okay, Schiano's been a good coach in his career. I mean, that's somebody that you should. I mean, he did stuff at Rutgers nobody's ever done before. Nobody ever will do again, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Wasn't Rutgers the Orange Bowl once?
No, I don't know if did they make the Orange Bowl? I don't remember ever covering them in the Orange Bowl.
Like they made a big ass bowl one time.
They it might have been like one of the ones in Tampa or like the Outback or one of those type of things.
Oh, it was bigger than that, doggy.
It was
bigger than Outback. I remember Schiano got them to some kind like a really impressive bowl game that I was like, holy shit, Rutgers is in this game.
They kicked Mario's ass in the Pinstripe Bowl not too long ago, if you remember that, 2 years ago. So I'm trying to remember which bowl game it was that Rutgers was in. Yeah, I don't.
Sean will look it up now. Sean will look it up.
Yeah,
he's the expert at all of that. Do you like the hire overall for a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, like I tried to tell people before, there's so much coaching turnover now. Like, remember we had this conversation, is he going to fire Guidry? What's going to happen? Who should he get? Nobody had an idea who the hell Lance Guidry was down here, right? Before Mario hired him. Nobody knows who the hell Heatherman is either, right? They'd never heard of him. I think ultimately now there's so much coaching turnover that if you come from a certain coaching tree, that's probably a good thing. And this guy came through the Schiano tree, and we know what Greg Schiano accomplished not only at Rutgers but here at Miami, right? And so I think that matters more nowadays when you're looking for coordinators, because there's only 5 or 6 guys that have big recognizable names that don't ever become head coaches and just sort of serve that defense coordinator role. Those guys are at the Alabamas and the Ohio States and at the big time programs that win national championships. Miami hasn't gotten back to there yet. So I think, when they hired Kevin Steele, it was a big name because everybody knew Kevin Steele. He'd been on a bunch of different rosters. Heatherman is just a good up-and-coming coach. You have to trust that Schiano knows what he's talking about and why he recommended him to Mario. So I think it's a good hire. I think the guy has really good results in his 1 year calling a defense at a Big Ten school. Minnesota almost beat Penn State this year, who was in the Final Four. So the guy can obviously coach, and I like the fact that he comes from the offensive side of the football. The fact that he was a quarterback. I like coaches who have been on both sides of the ball, so to speak, because they know, as a quarterback, what you're looking to expose on a defense, and I like the fact that this guy is comes from that original think tank.
By the way, I'm looking at it. I don't think it was. It doesn't look like I was right on the Orange Bowl or even a big bowl game.
Yeah, it didn't sound right to me. What happened was Rutgers, I think, got to number 2 or number 3 in the country.
They did have. What do you got, Sean?
No, it was the 2006 Texas Bowl, but I'm trying to figure out. It replaced the Houston something Bowl, but I don't know what the hell that was. In Reliance Stadium, they beat Kansas State 37-10, and that year they finished number 12 with 11-2 record.
Right.
There was a point.
That was the year that they had like a massive year for Rutgers, and it was like, are you kidding me? So it was a Texas.
They got to number 7 in the country that year. That was their highest ranking.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, Rutgers will never do that again.
No, but again, and it's funny. You look at the guys that replaced them at Rutgers. Now, at least the last 2 seasons, the guys gotten winning records. They hadn't had a winning record since 2014. So I mean, look, Greg Schiano might have been, in the end, Miami picked Larry Coker to replace Butch Davis. But think about it, right? Schiano could have been the choice.
Went with continuity there because he was already there.
Right. Right, but I think a lot of people have always thought Schiano was the better coordinator and the better coach.
Yeah,
so,
and they also went the cheap route too.
Yeah, of course. Well, that was what happened back in the day. Now they don't go the cheap route anymore.
Now they actually spend money. How much is this guy getting, the defensive coordinator?
Oh, the defensive coordinator? I'm guessing he's got to be making double what he was at Minnesota, which is $1 million. Minnesota yeah.
So he's not making 2. I would figure he would be making like 2 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was making $1 million at Minnesota, so I think he's making close to double that now.
Nice.
At Miami.
Nice.
So
and no tax state.
Right. And that's the thing. And Minnesota's lost some really good coaches the last few years. They're a Big Ten school, they make a lot of money, but they're not paying their PJ Fleck and those guys for whatever reason. I guess they're spending their money on NIL. They don't have enough to go around. It's nice when you can be a school with NIL and enough money to hire good coaches, right? Isn't that amazing?
Well, but that's where, that's the depressing part for me. I wanted Mario here, and I got to say, I'm looking like I'm wrong here on this one, bro, because I don't know if Mario's going to turn the corner like I wanted to turn the corner, because he has every resource that no Canes coach has ever had in his life. And we're going into year 4, and he can't put together a staff, and he still can't win enough relevant games. And he can't even win a bowl game. And I look at it okay, so whatever crappy decision you made with Cam or whatever, first of all, I think he shouldn't even play the game if he had to play a half. Don't even risk your injury, bro. Just go. But whatever NIL agreement you did or whatever, but once he left, you showed me as a coach what you are when the other guy took over. And your team wasn't prepared. The kid wasn't prepared. You didn't look good. It's kind of like people tell me, some people will say, well, Mike McDaniel resurrected to his career. I'm like, no, dude, no. He gave him confidence. Tua plays on his own. It has nothing to do with Mike McDaniel, because watch the team with Tua and then watch the team without. So if Mike McDaniel was a magic worker with anyone, then everyone, you would be Spo, in other words. Whoever you are under Spo, you're going to be the best player you've ever been in your life. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? That's right. What I see that with McDaniel. So the same thing. To me, I saw Cam carrying, Mario, and then no Cam, and oh my God. So I'm thinking, bro, Carson Beck, you're no Cam. And he erased a lot of shit. Oh, dude, I'm nervous about this one, bro. I'm nervous about this one. I got to tell you.
Well, here's what I would say. Carson Beck.
It's not the Carson thing. I just don't know if Mario's the guy. Carson Beck is good, but he's not even Cam. And you couldn't even win the ACC. You couldn't even get to the ACC championship game with a Heisman Trophy contender. I don't think this guy's as good as Cam.
If Mario comes back here in year 4 without Cam Ward, without a guy who could potentially be the first pick, right? Because I think that's potential. We don't know for sure if he's going to be the first pick, but certainly if he comes back and they make the playoff without him, then I think he's proven, he was building towards something.
Yes.
But if they go 8-4 this year without him, then I think we reach the point where maybe he really does. That's where I'm at with my assessment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's fair. That's where you should be. Yeah. I'm already at the point oh, man, I don't feel good about this anymore. I don't feel good about Mario. I don't like his team, his game day. I just don't feel like his teams are well prepared. I don't think I don't think the Canes have a coach that is going to outsmart the other guy, out coach the
Right.
other guy.
Well, I've always
Out hustle and outwork and blah 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 and cliches, because that's what
yeah.
Mark does. He just talks in cliches, bro. And it's like, yo, man, come on.
Yeah,
Bro.
he's the old school model of what was successful, you know, in the 2000s when you didn't have NIL and all that other stuff. You know, you could recruit, you could stack classes. The game has changed, and he has to evolve and prove, you know, that he can
Zero
marry himself to the right coordinator. Yeah, I know.
personality.
Yeah,
Zero, dude. It's
it
the old boring X's and O's coach and
yeah,
cliches and dude, come on, man. Evolve. Get a personality, grow, and just
yeah.
it's too much of that old school stuff, blah, blah, blah. And when you hear him talk, it's just like in here, out that way.
Yeah.
Really. It's
Yeah,
sad.
I think it is the old school way, and I you know, that's why I'm kind of hoping this DC hire pans out, because I think he needs some fresh blood, so to speak, around him from a coaching perspective. Guidry, I thought, brought that in year one, right? He gave some different thinking. They ran some 3-3 stack type defenses when they had some injuries on the defensive line. Innovative stuff. You saw them get to, but then the act got old this year, right? And teams figured out Guidry pretty quickly. I'm hoping Heatherman, he's a younger coach, but he kind of has Mario's personality. I'm hoping maybe over time we see a different guy. That Viking, he looks like a Viking, right? I mean, literally come from
Yeah.
Minnesota. He looks
Yeah.
like a Viking with that beard. I hope he's got more, I don't know, humor and more personality to him than we saw in the initial press conference. But
Shit, he's
I
got
think
Mr. Personality with the mustache hanging around his ass.
right, but we
It's
never hear him talk. We never hear him talk, so that's the problem.
that dude's got personality exploding all over the place, dude.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, you got, it's not it's not in a Mario. It's just he's just that guy. So
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
guess
Anyway,
maybe we get to hear a little bit more from Jason Taylor, assuming he's still here. We'll see.
all right, Carson Beck, your thoughts on that move? Because is he really making like $10 million with NIL and all these other agreements?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Listen, agents nowadays. Oh, you can explain it to your audience how it works in the NFL, right? I mean, there's a collective. What is it? Not a, besides the CBA, there's somebody who has to basically they have to report the contracts to, right? The Players Association, and so this stuff becomes visible to them, and that information. So they kind of hold themselves accountable with what numbers are and salary caps and all that kind of stuff. College football, all of this stuff is hidden still. So the agents from a college perspective don't have to necessarily respect any of those guidelines, and they can come out and say, hey, this guy signed this deal because, hey, Carson Beck's agents got him $10 million. Wow, I'm going to go sign with them, man. Look what they got Carson Beck. So the checks and balances isn't the same, obviously, in college. So I think the package, what Miami's collective is actually paying him, is double what Cam Ward got. I know that in terms of what the
$4
actual
million.
collective.
So he's getting $4 million.
A little more than 3 million. Now there are other packages around that, right? With corporations,
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Dr.
sponsor.
Pepper, Chick-fil-A, all those other corporations aside from that, right? And revenue sharing, all those other corporations, it might be closer to $6-7 million as a total package. But what is Miami's actual collective paying him, right? Like what is
Right. No, I know it's not.
that's a different number. And so what Bruce and I reported, I feel confident about. But the rest of the package, I think it could be anywhere from probably $6 to $10 million, depending on how many national deals he has. And he is going to be a national face like Cam Ward. He is going to be a Heisman contender if he's healthy because of what Cam Ward did last year and the fact that he's going to be the new leader of what was the number one offense. So going into the season, you will hear Heisman hype for Carson Beck. Whether or not he's still in the Heisman race come week 8 is a different story. But the point is he will at least go into the year. And those are the guys that get paid because they're the face of college football now.
I watched him, and he's a good quarterback, but he's not the eraser that this other kid is.
Right.
So that's, I'm just saying, I know Cam has, it's going to be fun to watch him adjust in the NFL because it's a different game than he played here. But the game he played here, very few people can do what he did. And Carson Beck can't do what he did.
This has to be a much more balanced offense.
Yeah, this has to be a much better team next year.
Mm-hmm.
Minus Cam, dude. If it's going to have and a much better team if you're actually going to win the conference, because I think last time I checked, Clemson now is going to spend money on NIL, so they got a chance of getting even better now.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson is still spending money on high school players and certainly coaches, right? They took Penn State's defensive coordinator away from him. But if you go back to 2023, when Carson Beck first became the starter at Georgia, and he led that team to really a 12-0 season, and they were right there on the precipice of making the national championship game before they lost to Alabama in the playoff. He was a ridiculously good quarterback, and a big part of that was Ladd McConkey and
super loaded.
and the tight end. So you're right. I mean, I think Miami has some NFL players around him. Like Ward had Xavier Restrepo, who will get drafted and make an NFL team. But I think Miami still needs to go out and add an NFL receiver. Jojo Trader might eventually become that. I think he's good. I think CJ Daniels is probably a day 3 guy. But you lost Elijah Arroyo at tight end, and you need Elijah Lofton, to kind of develop and take that next step into what Penn State just had. I think he's a very similar player to the guy at Penn State, where he's a multi-purpose knife. I think Fletcher and Lyle are NFL running backs. I think Francis Mauigoa is an NFL first-round pick at right tackle. I think he has that potential. So there's NFL players around him. Is it Georgia-level talent yet, like what Beck played with in 23? Not yet, but I think Mario can still get there, and I think there's still time in the portal to add another receiver or another guy that puts you over the top. So I think Miami's very well positioned in an ACC that is still not very good. Let's not forget, Florida State is still not very good. And, the Clemson team that you saw last year make the playoff and win the conference, they lost some guys. And while they did spend a little on NIL, it's not like Miami. It's not the same level of additions. They got some good players. They got the defensive end and edge rusher from Purdue is a good player, but it's not 9, 10, 11 guys like Miami went out and has done with its group, where those guys are all going to come in and start and play a lot. So I'm very interested to see what Clemson does. I respect Dabo Swinney. I think he does a great job. I just, from what they were, being a juggernaut, winning national championship and contending, to what they are now, and I think Miami fits in right there with a healthy Carson Beck. SMU, I would say, is still very, very good. But again, they're losing some guys that were a big part of their success, including their running back who came from Miami. So I'm interested to see what the ACC is going to look like. But I think this is a very winnable conference still for Miami.
All right. Don't forget, visit our friends at Caneswear. Brett and all the great people out there, man. They do an amazing job. Go to caneswear.com. Use our code BIG010. You will get 10% off, either online or in person. And by the way, online, if you don't live close by, you want to order online. If you order over $99, you will get free shipping. All right. So there you go. Go to caneswear.com.
This is the Big O Show.